Where are you at?
Come
You at
on.
your house?
Yeah, I'm in my apartment.
That's a beautiful background you have.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you use all that? What's in those? Yeah, what's in there?
The top ones are those are wooden baseball, the end of a wooden baseball bat, knob, shot glasses with the Braves logo engraved on them.
So you use those.
Yeah, I'll grab one real quick. They're pretty cool.
Wow, that's nice. I like that.
Yeah, it's cool.
Does it affect the taste of the liquor at all?
Nah.
Not bad. Still pretty stout.
Yep, stout.
Well, boys, how we doing? How's this week been? Let's start it off. How we
Nice.
feeling? How we feeling?
Joe, how's school?
G, schoolboy
Man,
Q.
it is busy. Um, Usually I teach mixed grades, but this year I've got almost strictly freshmen. And I might have said that last week, but I've hated freshmen ever since I was a sophomore. So
Hmm.
I'm still there. My first class is like almost all girls. You know how girls in high school are, like they're just quiet. But you get that class clown male in there, and that's what my second block is full of. There's like four girls or five girls and just straight dudes in the second block. So they're all trying to impress. It's pretty annoying. So I had this kid today. I'm sorry, I'm going into a whole tangent. This kid today, I walk in, I'm like, all right, we got a pop quiz tomorrow for the people on Spotify and Apple. I just did quotations with my fingers because I let them know that we're having a quiz tomorrow. So it's not a pop quiz. Sorry, I had to go into detail there. And I give them definitions to do for our types of government pop quiz tomorrow. And I say, or if y'all want to act crazy, that's cool. I've got some packets that y'all can do as busy work, and I will be taking them for a grade if you act up. So one kid says, Coach G, I think we should do some work today. Trying to be funny. I don't know. I was like, okay, brother, I'll be right back. Walk out, knock on the teacher's door next to me, say, hey, can you watch my class for a second? Go around to the copying room, make 60 copies of packets, throw two on his desk. And I say, there you go, buddy, you can work. He said, no, coach, I was just playing. I said, I'm not. Zero.
Wow.
Right when he left.
Yeah.
I'm
Welcome to
coming
the
like
damn
that.
show. I'm a
Fuck
sweet
yeah.
guy, but you ain't finna play me. You understand?
Welcome to the
So
show.
I set
Fuck
I
yeah,
set the
Joe.
tone. I set the tone today in second block, and then went and got me a Stromboli, and then ran a mile
Nice.
with the soccer team, and here we are, man. Gassed,
Hey,
ready for a great Thursday. We're getting to the end of the week. Being a head coach is a bit hectic, but I enjoy it, and yeah, that's how my week's going. Sorry it
there you
was so long, but first week of school is always a busy one.
go. Z Dog.
Fucking third day of school pop quiz, dude.
No, no,
Jeez.
no. Fifth day of school. Fifth day of school.
Still,
Dude,
Got setting the tone early.
you
hey,
are.
I ain't here to play. When that administrator walks in my room and says, Coach G, what are y'all doing today? I ain't finna say, I don't know. I'm freaking ready. I ain't
Hell
getting
yeah.
no bad grades. I ain't getting no bad reviews. I'm here.
Hell yeah.
Z Dog, what about your week?
Just been working. Same old, same old.
Yeah, that's the boat I'm in. Got a tea time today for Saturday. That's
Nice.
usually a Wednesday ritual. Besides that, just counting down to that time, to that first Saturday. I need it. I feel like it's such a reward when it gets here, but in reality, I'm still gonna have to work 5 days a week. And that hit me today randomly. I was thinking about that, so that kind of bummed me out a little. But I don't know. I strangely think I save money during football season because I don't go anywhere because I want to be at my house watching. So I honestly think this is a good time of the year for me. The only problem is got an Airbnb for LSU at Starkville week 3. I think that's going to cancel out on some of those weekends I stay home.
Yeah,
So,
probably.
but it is what it is. We're going to make the bank back as we gave y'all over unders last week. That's going to make back pretty much everything, any debt you ever had. And this week, we're going to talk I guess you can call it conferences, even though they're playing musical chairs at this point. But We got Pac-12, Big 10, Big 12. We'll hit SEC and ACC next week. I mean, enough with the small talk. I feel like we're getting down to it. We might as well go and jump right into it and hammer them. I'm gonna go West Coast first. The other two, I didn't give as many teams. Like, I obviously didn't go, top to bottom in the conference. We're kind of just talking the big dogs here. Sorry if you're a fan of one of those teams. Me, Joe, and Z are all fans of those teams that probably won't be mentioned in our conference talk. So just deal with it. If our team's not involved, the big dogs get the attention. That's just how it rolls. Pac-12, Z, I think I'm going to start at the bottom instead of ruining the whole deal from the get-go. I got a top four that I kind of went into it more. My 5 and 6, I kind of just threw in there, and we can talk a hair about Oregon State, UCLA, all right? And the main note I got beside them, I think they can ruin one of the top 4 seasons, all right? Not saying playoff contentions, but, if obviously we got Oregon and USC top of the conference. We're not going to go into it, but I'm saying Oregon State or UCLA, they catch a certain dog slipping, maybe even Utah, Washington. I think these are 2 teams, the middle of the pack, almost how teams, I guess, would, to bring it back to the SEC and me and Joe's team, Ole Miss and State are. They're not going to win the conference, right? But they can ruin someone else's year, make them 9-3 when they could have been a 10-2 team. So if you got anything on UCLA and Oregon State, like I said, the only thing I mentioned was got a chance to ruin some good teams season. And I guess UCLA, no DTR, so you can get into that if you got anything with it.
Yeah, that was going to be my main thing. UCLA is going to be talented. They're going to have some of those guys just because they're a big name program, and just with the coaching staff they have over there, they can recruit. But losing a guy like DTR, I mean, obviously he was a 4-year starter there. I'm pretty sure he started as a freshman at least half the year. So that's how it is, man. That's kind of the common denominator here when you're looking at these teams in the preseason. It's quarterback plays a big role in how your season's going to look before we get into it and kind of see what you're going to look like and who's going to be behind the center. But they're going to be talented enough. They get good quarterback play. They could, ruin some people's seasons. I don't know if they could win the conference but in Oregon State, I mean, I know you're high on Oregon State. I just don't know a whole lot about them. They've always had a good secondary, so that's always good. But other than that, I think it's a 2-team conference. I think.
Yeah, I think there's 2 tiers here, and I think we can
3-team. I'd say it's a 3-team conference.
Okay, that's fair, and I think I've got it broken. I mean, obviously, we're going to know where that breaks at here in 5 minutes when we get into it. But I've kind of got that. It's obviously 4. I'm even throwing a 4th in there, but I think it's like a 1A tier where I have, we'll go ahead and say USC and Oregon. And then my 1B tier is where I'm at with Utah and Washington. And we can roll straight into either one of those. I do want to say, dude, I don't know how it slipped from me. Oregon State 10-3 last year was just doing – I mean, I would love to go back and dive into the spreads, and I should have. I feel like they were a team that just won the games they were supposed to and then lost the ones they probably were going to lose. And they go 10-3. But I do want to touch base. You talking about the quarterback room. We've talked about an SEC with some QB question marks, right? Georgia, Bama, stuff like that. Hendon Hooker leaving. And then even around the country, Ohio State got to replace Stroud. Teams all over the country. This Pac-12, these top 4 we named are 4 guys that are not only returning, but they've stamped that team, right? Washington with Penix. Utah, you got the man Cam Rising back. Oregon, Bo Nix there for a decade now. And then USC, obviously, the Heisman Trophy winner. So I'll let you take
Colorado,
it.
Shadur Sanders.
Do what?
Colorado's got Shadur Sanders.
Yeah, true that.
New quarterback to a new team, but he's still at the same. I mean, obviously his dad's the head coach. It's a lot of things are going to still be familiar. Offense is going to be very, it's not going to be a change for him anywhere when it comes to that side of the ball. So I would say, even though he's new to the conference, new to the team, he's still a veteran quarterback in that system that they're going to run.
Right. New look for him as far as where he's at and shit, but obviously not new to football. The guy can spin it.
Yeah.
But, man, I'll let you hit either Washington or Utah first. I'm assuming Utah is your 3rd-team conference as far as saying top 3. So we'll go Washington first because I kind of just got them 3/4. I can spin it either way. I can see both sides of it. But, man, I'm glad we're talking about it out loud because, like I said, the top 4 teams in the conference to all have veteran Qs back is, now that I'm thinking about it, it's crazy because they're not around the country. It's not like that. Like even Max Duggan at TCU, even though it wasn't the guy. Like, there's so many cues that got lost from the big team. So go ahead and hit us with Washington, whatever you got. If you missed last week's episode, we are on the under Washington. So we're not going to dog them. Just going to give the opinion.
Yeah, based off what I said, obviously last week, I'm not huge on Washington. Look, Michael Penix is a good quarterback. He knows the system. He knows how to play football. So it's no surprise there that they're going to have that veteran leadership and a guy that knows how to play the game. He's familiar with the system. He's familiar with the coaching staff. They've got weapons, but I just think the hype on them is just, I don't, maybe I'm missing something, but I mean, it was like 10 games was their over under. Like, it was crazy. So I'm not super high on them. I think they're a team that, obviously to have a 10-win over under, you're going to have some talent on both sides of the ball. So they're going to be that team that, they could ruin some people's years, or they could make a run in the conference and, shock some people. So the Pac-12, I think, especially with the things coming out that so many people are leaving next year, and this is pretty much the last year of the Pac-12. I think this is one of the best years in the Pac-12 that we've seen in a long time, just with so much competition coming out of there. So they could be a team that could shock some people and win the thing, or they could be a team that, is in that top 3 or 4 in the conference, but pulls out a win against one of those big dogs in the 1 or 2 spot.
Yeah, and you drilled it, like having the weapons, and it's nice to have that connection already. They bring back 2,000-yard receivers, right? Michael Penix has to love that. They go 11-2 last year, but kind of just the same. They lost at UCLA and at Arizona State, so not exactly the best quality losses. They beat Oregon and Oregon State last year, but I think we addressed this last week. They didn't play USC last week, right? Or last year, excuse me. But I don't know. I just think, like you said, 10.5 or 10 or whatever it was, even double digit, even if it is 10, is just, I can't see it. And like you said, I think the main story here for having Washington at 4 is how deep the Pac-12 could really be even if Oregon State does step up a little bit. Like you said, I'm higher on them, but either way, I mean, the Pac-12 has a chance to be really, really fun. And I think my favorite thing about it is that they're all going to be, a little bit of late nighters. Pac-12 out there. Also, with all the conference realignment, I mean, I don't know. It's crazy to see them be this good when everything's falling apart and everything's happening. So, if you got anything on Washington, Oregon State, UCLA, we touched all them, and then we'll roll to the top 3.
No, I agree with everything y'all said on UCLA, Oregon State. And I agree that the ender will probably be the play for Washington, but I do like Michael Penix Jr. I think that, like I like Sam Hartman, I think that he'll be a really good get for someone in the late rounds. But I mean, that's really all I got. I think he's got all the tools. I don't know if he's fully grown into himself yet. I think he had a good year last year, but like you said, they didn't wow anybody that they shouldn't have beat.
Yeah, and looking back at it now, just before we jump off of them, no USC or Utah last year. So
Yeah,
there's your top 2 teams in the Pac-12, and this year they get at USC, they get Utah at home, but then they got to travel to Oregon State and host Oregon. So there's 4 really tough games. I mean, and 2 of them they didn't even play last year, and they're the 2 best teams in the conference. So I feel like that's got to weigh a little bit as far as the 10.5 win total. Enough with the Huskies. Let's roll to a lot of teams' favorite. A lot of people that didn't like Lincoln Riley or didn't like USC for whatever reason. The Utah Utes, right? They beat USC twice. They kind of shatter their playoff chance once. USC might could have gotten the door still. I think they still would have if they could have handled it in the Pac-12 championship. Utah says not so fast. Destroys them in the Pac-12 championship. Cam Rising's back. They do lose a lead in running back and receiver. You don't love that, but with a guy like Cam Rising, the poise, the leadership, the experience, all that, and just I hate to say this, you don't see it often out west, and I think they're one of the only ones I think of this way. Just a gritty football team, right? Just a blue collar out west, and just something you don't see with USC, Oregon. It seems a lot more flashy, even Washington. But Utah not afraid to get down and dirty. Like I said, beat USC twice last year. Z-Dog, what you got on the Utes?
Yeah, Utah's my team out there in the Pac-12. Obviously, I think USC is the favorite to win the conference, and then there's a lot of hype surrounded around Oregon and Bo Nix and them guys. But Utah's my sleeper team there. They're not only a team that could, you know, ruin USC's season again, but I think they're a team that could run the table and win the Pac-12. You got Cam Rising coming back for a 5th year, maybe even be a 6th year. He's familiar. He's obviously been the quarterback for many years. He knows the offense. He knows the system. He's got familiarity with the weapons and the coaching staff, and they're a well-run football team. I think they surprised a lot of people the past 2 years, especially last year when they were playing USC. And if, if anybody's going to knock off that top dog in USC with Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams, I think it's Utah.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, and how do you not say that right after? Because I'm looking at it, and they got at Oregon State, at USC, at Washington, at Baylor. So a lot of road tests, right? I mean, the Baylor game technically doesn't matter when it comes to who's winning the Pac-12. But at USC, and you want to say you got to go to the Heisman Trophy winner's house. It's a revenge game. I mean, anyone that says that, you got to stop them right there, because the Pac-12 championship was a revenge game of all revenge games, right? You lose by 1 at Utah if you're Caleb Williams and USC, and you can't get it done in the Pac-12 championship. So I don't think there's any – you can't really just nod your head to how talented USC is and write off Utah, because like you said, if somebody can beat them, it's been proven, right? Twice in 1 year. Yeah, I like Utah. I mean, like I said, they're just no one wants to play Utah. No one should ever want – you don't want to see them on the schedule. Shockingly, they lose at Florida last year. I think they get Florida a couple scores this year. I really do. Like, I think Utah, they could kind of taste it last year. They were never really – I mean, they lose that week 1, so that kind of sucks. And they lose at UCLA and at Oregon. But, I mean, a great football team that you got to think with Rising has beliefs that they can win the Pac-12 again. And maybe – it seems far-fetched to talk about playoff, but if they can win the Pac-12 and put something together, I don't think it's out of the world. That's all I got on the Utes, though. I don't want to get too far into them. We got the top 2 left. Jeefy, I don't know how you feel about the Utes. I feel like you would be a Utes guy.
Yeah, I like the Utes. Kind of like Z. They're my guys out west. I do like BYU just because I like to see them upset people all the time, and they're kind of notorious for that, at least in the last 10 years. But I mean, look at the Utes. They upset USC twice, and I think not only coming back, yeah, USC is probably the tougher team on paper, but when you get on that field against a team that's beaten you twice in 1 year, that's a lot of confidence coming in for Utah. They know that they can handle the top dog. It's just those little games that they have to win, and they can win the conference, I think.
Yeah, and I want to say too, like, obviously Utah, a lot of confidence because you're on a back-to-back win streak. Well, hell, they might have. I don't know about 2 years ago, but Utah beat them twice last year. They could be on a streak. I'm not sure. But, I mean, Caleb Williams wanted to be that dog, right? He had painted on it. What was it? Fuck you on the nails? Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Utah?
Yeah.
Something. But he was confident, right? Like, the storybook was written. He wins that game. He goes to playoff more than likely. I think losing it twice, man, he sees those guys line up. He sees that logo, that bus pull in. He's a dog, but there's got to be something lingering in the back of the mind, like, man, we have got to beat these guys this time. Like, we have to. 3 in a row gets really, really weird, especially in 2 years. So that's a game to circle. I mean, that's just going to be – it's at home. That's going to be probably the biggest game in the Pac-12, I'd say. I mean, you got USC at Oregon's only I think those 2 are going to be great games. Look, we can roll right into Oregon in the 5, 6 year, 7 year vet. It feels like Bo Nix. Z's a Bo Nix believer, and G's a Bo Nix.
You can
not
say
hater.
it. You can say it.
I really don't think you're a hater. I think you're just you don't believe in it.
I don't.
You're a Bo Nix atheist.
Wow.
That's it, fine. But Z, I want you to preach on Bo Nix, and then obviously I want G to get a little rattled here. I want G to tell us why he sucks.
No, I like Bo Nix. I've liked Bo Nix since he was at Auburn. I think the kid can play. I think he's got that gunslinger mentality, and you just got to tone him down. I think you've seen a different Bo Nix since he went to Oregon in that different style of offense than he was running at Auburn, which allows him to kind of feed into his skill set and what his play style is like, which is just a lot of running around, slinging the ball, doing some things that, traditionally you say you're not supposed to do, throwing, off your back foot, throwing across your body, things of that nature. But that's what makes him so special and so dynamic and scary to a defense. So they're going to have a shit ton of weapons over there at Oregon. You got a guy who's a veteran in college football. You got a guy who's comfortable in the offense. You got a coach in Dan Lanning who knows how to coach some football, and there's a reason he got that job. So I think, like you said earlier, that 1B, I think it's USC at the top, and then for me, it's Oregon and Utah right there.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with Z. About everything he said, just about except for that Bo Nix part. Oregon's a super talented team. They're always going to be a talented team. They get the skill guys. I think they had the number 1 pick. Was it 2-3 years ago in the D lineman? His name's slipping me right
Yeah,
now.
Kayvon Thibodeau.
Kayvon Thibodeau. Thank you, Z. Our fact checker.
Walking computer.
That's right. But no, I think that Oregon's going to be good. I don't trust Bo Nix in behind center, and I don't think that there's any good reasoning to. I think he had a good year last year, compared to his years at Auburn. But like Z said, there are guys out there that make the plays across your body and on the run, and Bo Nix can make some of them. I just don't think that he's the guy that's going to win you a championship. I have nothing against him. I agree that they're at the top of that conference. He's just not the guy for me. So
Yeah,
I think he's a talented guy. Obviously, he's made it to a higher level of athletics than I have. So no hate towards him, but I just don't think he's gonna win Oregon a championship, and I don't think they'll win the conference. And I think it'll be because of a late game Bo Nix mistake that they drop one that they shouldn't.
And I think both of those statements are fair. Like you see Bo Nix, like Z's talking about, he makes the plays that so to speak, aren't supposed to make or whatever that he creates. But also see Joe's side is he's got to take the step eventually to win it, right? Didn't even play in the Pac-12 championship last year. They get embarrassed by Georgia, and I'll give him that. That bounce back was nice. If they come each week, just had to crawl back. Because they got embarrassed and on a national stage. It was like one of the biggest games hyped up for starting off the season last year. But besides that, they lose versus Washington and at Oregon State by a combined of 7 points. So, they're one of those teams you can argue a couple plays away from what happens if they are 11-1. What happens if this? But Nix is back. That's the main story. Now, I think him being back and being so old, it kind of like outshines the sophomore running back Bucky Irving's back, 1,000-yard rusher, top receivers back. So the cards are lined up. And honestly, I'll just tie this in with the USC. They get, like I said, top 1,000-yard rusher back, top receiver back at Oregon, and Bo Nix back. USC gets Caleb Williams back. But I want to go ahead and roll in. The Jordan Addison effect is going to be something because that was Caleb Williams, another guy, pocket bust. He's going to do something magical. Might be a stupid play, may not work out, but when it did, seemed like he could find Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison kind of understood Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams understood, hey, the play's not over. I got a guy down there who's moving with me, stuff like that. So that's probably the biggest question mark I got for USC. But man, when you return a Heisman, how can you not be your pick to win the conference when they were as good as they were last year? And I jotted down. I just wanted to say them out loud, but Caleb Williams last year, 4,500 yards, 42 tutties, 5 picks. I mean, just absolutely unbelievable when it comes to the stat line. 10 more tutties on the ground. I don't know, man. They're almost in the same boat as me, and we'll talk about Texas later this episode. But I mean, they've got to win the Pac-12 this year. They've got to. Lincoln Riley's got to win it. You almost want to say he's got to get in the playoff. This year you have a freak of a talent, and nothing's guaranteed that he puts up the same nearly 5,000 all-purpose yards on offense and 50 touchdowns. Nothing, it's not guaranteed, but the talent he is, and if he can stay healthy, I can't see where USC doesn't figure it out this year and get them, especially adding what they did defensively when it comes to the portal and just some other guys returning. And you don't necessarily want to return a bad defense all the way, but the big name, obviously Bear Alexander on that defensive line is going to be a force to reckon with, especially in the Pac-12. And I think this year you got at Notre Dame and at Oregon are the big ones, and then obviously you host Utah and Washington. So some big football games. Notre Dame one doesn't affect the Pac-12, but I think still a big test. Yeah, I'm excited to watch them again. I loved watching them last year, and hope Caleb Williams puts up the same season. entertaining as hell. Z-Dog?
Yeah, look, USC's the top dog out there. Caleb Williams, like you said, returning a Heisman. I don't think there's been a Heisman winning quarterback return since Johnny Manziel. So, off the top of my head, I can't really think of another one since Johnny because Johnny won as a freshman.
Yeah.
But
Keep
so yeah,
going.
obviously, when you get a Heisman returning quarterback, um, it's your conference to lose. It's your season to lose. I mean, with the kind of athletes they have, the talent they've recruited, the quarterback they have, who's one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in college football in a while. Definitely since Trevor Lawrence came out, but that wasn't super long ago. It's just who's better, Caleb or Trevor. But look, I think you hit it right on. I think you hit it right on the head when you said losing Jordan Addison is going to be a big loss for them. But they've got guys there who are familiar with the system or are super talented. It's just there's always that problem with Lincoln Riley teams is can they play defense and how's that secondary going to look? So it's going to be interesting to see. But their mentality may just be let's just try and score more points than the other team does. So I think you're going to see a lot of high flying offense out of them. And when you got a quarterback like that, your chances are looking real good.
Right. And I meant to mention Travis Dye, top running back for them last year, gone as well. But like you said, they've got guys familiar with it. Two seniors, Taj Washington at wide receiver, Austin Jones at running back, both veterans, senior guys. I think one's a fifth year. So that helps. But I mean, Jordan Addison's almost not the same unicorn as Caleb Williams, I don't think. But, that was his 1-2 punch. That was where he went to. Also, I would like to apologize to everyone for us being idiots and not realizing Bryce Young just came back last year after he won a Heisman.
Yep, that's on me.
I was sitting here thinking that's why I told you just keep going. I was like, dude, somebody just it was a headline, like that was the story. And I literally last year, I'm pretty sure I just preached. I was like, Bryce could go back to back. I can see it.
Yeah,
It's
damn.
fine.
God,
We all watched Untold Johnny Manziel yesterday, so Johnny's on our mind.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
You haven't watched that, man. You got must see stuff. Anybody else upset how short it was? I felt like I just started it.
I definitely would have liked it to be like a docu-series, but I know that Untold makes just the one documentary film. So.
Yeah, it almost does, but you kind of appreciate that as well. Like everything's right there, and I was so glued to the TV.
Yeah.
Not looking at the playbook is crazy.
Crazy. I saw a stat today that he never looked at the playbook when he was with the Browns, and he has more 300-yard passing games in the NFL than Justin Fields does. Crazy.
Jesus. But
crazy.
That's Pac-12, so I guess we're all Are we all going USC's winning the conference? Is that how we're Yeah, I think it's hard not to. That's almost like saying we have our doubts.
I'll throw a curveball in there. I'll go with the Utes.
He's taking the Utes. Hey, not even a curveball. Honestly, like being the defending champ, it's almost like gotta put a little respect. I like it.
Yeah.
I sure as heck ain't going with Oregon, though. I'll tell you that.
This conference not as much middle of the pack for me to talk about. Probably you guys not either. I went Big Ten next, by the way. I mean, it's usually just been a two-headed monster, but I at least gave the respect to throw in 4. We're starting it off again with a team we were over under as far as what I'm going. Z, I don't know your 4. If it's different, let me know. I'm going Wisconsin at the 4. We're on the over. Man, I kind of the more and more, and you know how it is when you got a season-long bet, you're gonna put it in. That's your team, right? Like Minnesota last year, I was dying with the Gophers. I loved them. I felt like I was a fan almost. It's also fun betting against teams that never play your team. Like I don't have to worry about Wisconsin. State's not going to play them anywhere. Like it's just not going to happen. So, I mean, wake up, Madison. I think it's time. Luke Fickell, Tanner Mordecai coming to town. You got a lot to be excited for if you're Wisconsin. Last year, 7-6. L's all over the place. I do want to mention they lost to Illinois and Minnesota, who I think last year were stout football teams and also are going to be that team that takes a step backwards. Kind of hard. Minnesota losing quarterback and running back that were both 6-year guys. So I think the schedule gets a little more friendly. You go to Purdue, who's without Aiden O'Connell. That's obviously a step down. Like I just mentioned, the Minnesota and Illinois. You do got Ohio State. Don't have Michigan. That's a plus at Washington State. So you can get some football games. We already broke down the schedule as far as wins go. But man, I think the first thing is just to be excited about. Like I said, you get a new coach and you get Tanner Mordecai, who put up great video game like numbers almost at SMU, and then obviously your heroes back, Braylon Allen. You can jump on his back as long as you need to, probably. And yeah, I think Wisconsin's a 4 here, and then I do want to throw in there that yes, we know there's a big gap between the top 3 and this Wisconsin or whatever team you got at 4. So, D, if you got anything to add, Wisconsin, or even if you have a different 4 team, throw them in there.
No, Wisconsin's my 4 in that conference. It's definitely a little bit different than the Pac-12, just because the Pac-12 is just so competitive this year, and the Big Ten is just kind of those 2 top dogs that you're going to see every year, and that's just how it is. But yeah, if I had to pick a top 4, Wisconsin would be my top 4, just based off obviously the program history. And they're going to have talent there. They're going to run the ball down your throat, and they're going to play Big Ten football. So they can win some football games. They can ruin some people's years, but I just don't think they're on that level as the Ohio States and the Michigans.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, G, if you got anything on Wisconsin or another Big Ten team that you like outside the top 3, feel free or forever hold your peace. Up to you.
I'll just say my Wisconsin's definitely my 4A, but I'll give the old Iowa Hawkeyes a 4B.
Hey,
9-3 last year. They're always up there to mess somebody's season up, so I'll give them a 4.
Man, you got to be a trooper to watch 4 quarters of Iowa football. Got to be a trooper, but
hey, you got to be a trooper to play against them too. That's why I like them.
yeah, I like that. I think
At least on the stat line, I wouldn't say I like sitting down and watching their games.
I mean, it's just tough to watch a bunch of white guys play football. Let's call it how it is. But number 3, I think this one's obvious too. This can be one of your hot takes or dark horse or something if you want to really get into it. But I think calling it how it is and being, knowledgeable and reasonable, stuff like that. Penn State, man, the tale of it, and it's been this way, since James Franklin has got there, and I got the stat, he's 4-14 combined versus Michigan and Ohio State in his 9 years there. So, I mean, that's brutal. That's a brutal stat. I think he's at like a 75 or 80 win percentage outside of those 2. So if you're Penn State, I mean, it's just painful. Honestly, it's painful. You don't play in a necessarily unreal conference of football, and you got 2 teams that you just can't beat them. You don't even get close. But I think Drew Aller is the question here, taking over the quarterback role. I don't know though, man. Like it's so hard to really talk yourself into. Okay, they could win this conference. They could do this. They go to Ohio State this year. They host Michigan. It switches every year. Their only L's last year were to them 2. I don't know. I think it's going to be probably the same song and dance, 10-2 maybe. They could still win, but I'm so much higher on Michigan, in my opinion. You get them at home, and you got to go to Ohio State. So honestly, if I'm Penn State, I wish that was flip-flopped. Either way, I think Ohio State and Michigan both get them. But play it on, Mizzou. What we got?
Yeah, obviously you're super high on Penn State, a lot higher than I am. But in that conference, you do have to say they're the 3rd team. James Franklin's been around for a while. He knows how to coach football. They have an electric atmosphere when they play games at home. So walking into there, it's a tough game to win, especially at night, especially if they throw a whiteout game, something like that. So they have all those kind of little intangibles there that they could, sneak up on somebody, make a game tight, especially with Ohio State, who's going to have a new quarterback. You put him in a game like that, for instance, and it gets tight late and see what he's made of in a big game like that, you never know what can happen.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. Being at Ohio State, I almost hate it this year.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. I just don't see a way where it's not Ohio State or Michigan.
Yeah.
Especially with all this hype coming out of Michigan with J.J. McCarthy. I think if you look at it right now, today, it's Michigan's conference to lose. Just with the talent with the returning quarterback, but I lean Ohio State just because that's the way I'm looking at it. But you never know. I think Penn State's right there, and they could ruin somebody's season. And hey, you never know. College football's crazy, man. Somebody can get hot, they can get it figured out, and they can make a run in a conference like that when it's just 2 teams you got to beat.
Yeah, and I mean that's been everybody's list as far as stuff I see. Obviously, Penn State at Michigan, uh, Penn State versus Michigan, the Michigan Ohio State game. Like those three games, that's where it's at, right? Like that's that conference. It usually is. But you throw that one curveball in there, say Penn State does get Ohio State, and I know it's before the other two games. I mean, if that happens, there's so much different scenarios that can all of a sudden come out, and we'll roll into Ohio State because I know, like you said, you're pretty high on them, electric offense. But I think that story for Penn State, they got to go to what's probably going to be Kyle McCord's house. Uh, Man, it would have been nice for Penn State to catch a newer quarterback at, like you said, that whiteout game or that sold out night game. But that's where I'm going to hit the veteran of JJ McCarthy and Blake Corum going to Penn State. If I'm a Michigan fan, I feel much more comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I think as a Michigan fan, you should be more comfortable with JJ McCarthy and Blake Corum. You got two guys who are coming back. They've been in the system. They've played in these big time games. They've played in this conference, so they've had success. On Ohio State's end, yeah, Kyle McCord, he's new to this. He's new to this starting role, and he hasn't gone in and been the guy that everybody's eyes are on, and he's going to have to put the team on his back and win. But I think he has more weapons than Michigan does, especially on the wide receiver side of the ball, especially with Marvin Harrison Jr. Sometimes, dude, you just got to get the playmakers the ball in space and let them go to work. So Marvin Harrison Jr., he's going to see a lot of double, even triple teams this year, especially. But that's going to leave other guys open. I can't remember the guy's name off the top of my head, but he's a weapon as well. He's got a weirder last name. I can't remember it off the top of my head.
I doubt it's him if it's average, but Travion Henderson too.
Yeah, Travion Henderson. Yep. And then, Kyle McCord, he's a highly touted kid. He's a 4 or 5 star kid coming out of high school. He's been in the system. He just hadn't been the starting quarterback. So, look, it's going to be interesting to see their first couple games, see what he can do. And look, Ohio State has a pedigree of having really good quarterbacks and being able to develop them. So if he comes out here and, he's just shredding teams and spinning it, I don't think that should be a surprise to anybody. But it is a 2-team conference, and it's going to be interesting to see how it works out. But if Penn State slips someone up, I think it's Ohio State.
Yeah, and I think, like you said, and this is a off-the-wall comparison, but it just clicked in my head. We've seen some Bama teams be pretty good with average QB play, right? And like you said, dude, Marvin Harrison is a freak, right? And Travion Henderson is very, very talented. I don't think he's Marvin Harrison, but you got guys like that. If Kyle McCord can just not give the ball to the opponent, they're in a conference where he can take 20 quarters, 5 games to figure it out. And then that's no disrespect to the Big Ten. That's just how it is. Like we said, there's 2 big games on this schedule. You got at Michigan and at Wisconsin, I think you don't love. And like you said, you get Penn State at Notre Dame. But, the Penn State game's later. All these games are later. So he's got 20 quarters, 24 quarters, whatever it may be. He's got time to figure it out. But I think we're going to see, as far as touch base on the gambling side, these Ohio State lines early in the year, you can probably, I'm saying take them because they've got to get it in the rhythm, right? So they're going to take advantage of all 60 minutes. I don't know. Like you said, it's football, it's Big Ten, it's Michigan, Ohio State. It can go either way. That's how, every year it's like that. I think I'm just leaning Michigan, and I feel like I say it every time we bring them up, the experience. It's unbelievable. 8 of 11 starters on offense are back. It's hard to argue against that stat alone, especially in college football, getting the quarterback, especially a talented quarterback back. And like I said, you got Blake Corum right there if the pass game's not working, you got a guy that can tote the rock pretty damn good. I do want to say, does Michigan have to get to the Natty game at least this year, or does it feel like that?
No, I say they have to beat Ohio State, win the conference, make the playoff.
Okay, that's fair. Like beating to the Natty, that's asking a lot, I know, but it just seems like if they can't, and they were so close last year with, they go 13-0, run the table, they're on a roll, and then they run into, the dream team and the crazy story of Max Duggan and lose 51-45, and potentially game of the year, if not second game of the year, at least to Ohio State, Georgia. But I don't know. It feels like they're, who knows what could have happened if they got to play Georgia. Georgia was a monster, but to go 13-0 and then lose like that, I just feel like this year they've got I hope they don't overlook too many games, but I feel like they've got to have their mind on the playoff already, especially being in the conference like we keep talking about. So I don't know. Big Ten, my pick's Michigan. Z,
Ohio State. Yeah.
Z's got Ohio State. Jiffy.
All right, it's been a while since I talked, so I just want to say I'm an idiot for
That's
saying
all you
that I was 9-3. That's what they're projected to be. They were 8-5 last year. Second of all, I think the key this year is those 8 of 11 people returning on Michigan's offense, because every time they lose to Ohio State, or at least a lot of times, it's the offense. You're never going to have to worry about the defense with Michigan. But going in and being able to return not only a quarterback that's experienced, but a good quarterback that's experienced. And are they playing at home? Is it at Michigan this year, or is it at Ohio State?
It's at Michigan.
Huge. That's also huge. So I'll take Michigan, but it won't be a surprise to me if Ohio State takes it.
Yeah, I hope they don't sleepwalk too much. Is all I'll say. They go to Penn State, their 10th game of the year, and then they got Ohio State 12th game of the year. So those first 9 games, they're going to have to. I mean, it's hard not to sleepwalk when you're playing in the Big Ten conference and all. I feel so bad disrespecting them the way we do, but it's part of it. Last conference of the episode, fellas. I wanted to save. I mean, I'm pretty geographically challenged, I would say, but I did try to go west to east. So we're going to save SEC and ACC. We're going Big 12. I'm not going to jump to the top of the list like I want to. I only wrote down 3. I'm going to be honest. Started running out of time a little bit, got a hair distracted. And my 2 and 3, I wrote an arrow swapping them. Then I scribbled it out and I wrote it again. So I'm not really sure who I've got 3. I'm going to lead off with Kansas State. I don't know how we feel about Kansas State. They lose the famous midget now, it seems, Deuce Vaughn to the Cowboys. Hell of a college quarterback. Cannot wait to see how that goes in the NFL. I have my doubts about him. Much talented running back. But no, Will Howard back at Q for him. Took over second half last year after Adrian Martinez went down. Trayshawn Ward, the running back from Florida State, transfers in. I think he's going to be the key there. He's not going to fill Deuce Vaughn's shoes, no matter how small size speed he has. He was their man. He was almost the same as, definitely not the same as Jordan Addison, but there's a bunch of plays where I've watched his highlights countless times. The play is dead, and all of a sudden Deuce Vaughn's just open, right? He just slips through stuff. So hard to replace guys like that. Last year they go 10-4. Not some great losses. They lose to Tulane, respectable team. Lose versus Texas, versus Bama in that bowl game. Take that how you will. Do win the Big 12 championship, overtime TCU, insane game. This year, I don't know. I think their schedule's not. They do go to Texas Tech and to Texas, but I think a TCU team takes a step back. Obviously, Oklahoma State, not crazy scared of it. Go to Missouri, doesn't have an effect on the Big 12 championship, but I don't know. I kind of like the Kansas State team. They're a little gritty to me as well. They kind of got that blue collar grit almost. Not as much as Utah, but I just like the way they play. Z-Dog?
No, I agree with what you're saying. If we're going to do a top 3, they're just not my third one.
Yeah.
I think they're really talented. They brought some good guys in. They got some good guys back. And they had a great year last year, obviously. I'd put them at 4. Saying it out loud, it's kind of like contradicting, but I'm gonna go 3 TCU. Yeah, you lose Max Duggan, and look, this is almost 50-50 for me.
It's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. Was TCU a Cinderella story and they just had a great quarterback who was just hot and he was slinging it everywhere? Or are they a talented team? And I think they're well-coached team, and I don't think that's a problem for them at all. It's, can you replace Max Duggan for one? And then was this something that was kind of a one-year thing, kind of like for a basketball reference when the Hawks went to the Eastern Conference Finals? So was it just kind of a fluke? Did it come too early? Was it a Cinderella story of the year, which it seemed like last year? But look, they're a good football team. They're out there in the heart of Texas. They're going to be able to recruit. So I'm a lean TCU as my third team. But, I mean, it's neck and neck if you're going to do a top 3 with, I'd say, TCU, and Kansas State. But there's some
Yeah.
good teams right there in the middle of the pack. Kansas is good, or better than they have been. Texas Tech, you never really know what you're going to get out of them. And then West Virginia, the same there. West Virginia, they could be a good football team as well. So it's a very interesting conference when you look at it kind of in that 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 range.
Yeah, and I would say it was tough to me. And like I said, poor homework by me, ran out of time a little bit. But the Big 12, I definitely think, is up there for maybe not the elite, but the teams that could go 8-4, right? There's an argument for, like you said, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that whole middle of the pack. So obviously they all go 8-4, but I think there's definitely, there'll be one, like you said, a Texas Tech is always, you can never count them out, right? Tough team. Nobody ever wants to see them on the schedule. Kansas State, TCU, and then to touch on that TCU Cinderella story, it felt like that, and it was hard not to, right? Duggan, he has heart problems at one point. He wasn't supposed to be the Q, all this. But at the end of the day, it's football, right? It's almost hard to say this Cinderella team just shows up week in and week out and wins and grinds out wins. They're not cakewalking anything. They're kicking game-winning field goals, going on 80-yard drives in 2 minutes to force overtime, stuff like that. So I think that's a really good point by you that TCU, it's hard to say they're a Cinderella team when it's football, right? And there's 6 days in between. You can only get hot for, you play 4 games over 28 days. How hot can you really stay and keep that chemistry and stuff like that? So I think that's a great point. Yeah, man. The more you talk about it, Kansas State, TCU, and like you even said, Kansas. Nobody wants to really see Kansas on the schedule right now. They're just a team that can kind of, like you said, ruin a good season. Maybe not ruin, a playoff team's chance, but they can ruin a good season for a lot of teams. So roll in with your number 2, and then I'm assuming we both got the same one.
My number 2 is Oklahoma.
Okay, so we both got the same one. We got the same 2 as well.
Yeah, my number 2 is Oklahoma. I've said this multiple times, I feel like over the past 2-3 weeks, but well-coached football teams and coaches that not only have experience as head coaches and have proven it as head coaches, but have proven it as coordinators are well, something that's big for me when you look at college football. College football is a lot different than NFL. You got to coach these kids. You got to really – being a head coach in college is different than the NFL. NFL, you're kind of just managing the guys. College, you got to coach these kids up, make them listen to you, things of that nature. And I think Oklahoma's got one of the best head coaches in the country. They got one of the best coaching staffs in the country, and they can recruit. They've landed some big-time recruits since Lincoln Riley has left, when a lot of people thought that he was just going to take everybody with him and they were going to fall apart. They're going to be talented. They've got a good quarterback room, and I think they're the second-best team in that conference.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. That's my 2. I do think it's a little hard and a little strange. Just Oklahoma's our 2, and last year go 6 and 7. But I think they can do. I think they can do it different this year. I think Dylan Gabriel's back. He's going to be okay. I think Texas and OU. Texas is obviously our 1. I think they both got to have a really good year. Obviously, they can't both win the conference. But I think Oklahoma's got to bounce back. At least 9 wins, I'd say, has to happen.
I think so. As long as Dylan Gabriel can stay healthy, that's always been a problem with him throughout his career. But the kid can play some football. He can spin the ball. And then, like I said, man, coaching. Brent Venables is a hell of a coach. He constructed a great defense when he was at Clemson, and there's no reason he shouldn't be able to. Look, last year was either year 1 or year 2 just in his new system on defense. So these guys are going to be more prepared. He's finally starting to get his recruits playing. So I think especially from a defensive side of the ball, they're going to be improved.
Yeah, and his guys coming up, and also a top 10 portal class, which has changed the game of college football. So, yeah, filling in some pieces. We're definitely looking better than 6 and 7, no doubt. They play. They host Texas, host UCF, go to Kansas, to Oklahoma State, and then they host TCU towards the end of the season. So, I think those are the 5 biggest. Kansas, you can handle them, right? We just talked about them. We gave them credit. They can ruin some good season, but you can handle them. You can handle at OK State. I think TCU takes a step back. I still think they're tough, but, you lose a guy like Duggan, it's always going to play a factor somewhere along the line. And then the other big one I wrote down was Texas, and we can just go straight into them. And I think this is the one that I mentioned about Michigan having to at least play in that national championship game. Texas has to win the Big 12. I don't think there's any way around it. I don't think there's any spin you can put on it. I don't think there's anything. I think Sark and Texas have to win the Big 12. You got your guy Ewers, right? You love him. Texas loves him. He's the guy. You got Xavier Worthy, All American preseason guy. You got A.D. Mitchell from Georgia, and I think one of the biggest things in not only college football but anywhere, if you get a lot of starts back and a lot of snaps back, they got the 5-0 lineman back. I mean that's huge. That's a huge part. Doesn't get talked about enough. Like I said, last year 8-5. It's hard to hype them up like we're doing. They go to Bama, doesn't play a part in the Big 12, but still a fun game. Our guy Joe G thought it was such a fun game. He's going to get married on that day. At Baylor, you got Kansas, OU, K State. Catch a lot of these at home. I think the only weird one that we can talk about ruin really good seasons, or in this case, who knows if Texas is making a case for the playoff. You go to Texas Tech, so gonna have to be on your P's and Q's in that one. If Ewers can stay healthy, man, and Xavier Worthy and A.D. Mitchell, I think, are about to put on a clinic. One's going to have to be doubled or at least shaded, and I think the other one's really going to cut loose. Yeah, I think it's going to be a fun year, and hey, Texas is back. I do it. I think I'm third year running, baby. Texas is back.
I think they got to be back. It's got to be now. I think it's got to be this year. Like you said, Quinn Ewers, I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in the country. You got Sark over there running the show in Texas. He's got his guys, his recruiting guys. All the guys he's recruited are starting to play. It's been a process that they thought they were back, 4 or 5 years ago, it seems like. But if Quinn Ewers can stay healthy, they're going to have a great quarterback back there. They've got weapons on the outside, and they got weapons in running back. So offensively, they're going to be very. They're going to be I think they're going to be a more aggressive team. You're going to see, but I think they're going to be a more balanced team than some of the others we've talked about. I think they're going to still want to run the football, run down your throat, and then for them, I think it comes down to O-line and D-line play. That's kind of where I'm leaning. Not whether it's scoring the ball or stopping teams on defense in the secondary. I think it comes down to rushing the passer and protecting Quinn Ewers. I think that was a problem last year, was their offensive line a little bit, and I think both sides of the ball on the line is my concern for them, and just interested to see what that kind of looks like.
Jiffy, we got any Texas talk?
I like them a lot, obviously. I mean, they're definitely my number one. Quinn Ewers, I like him a lot. I think if he stays healthy, he'll be good. I think Z hit it perfect with the battle in the trenches. I think a lot of times you can see even in that Alabama game and late in the season in their Big 12 games, the line wasn't bad, but late in games it kind of collapsed on them a lot. So it's got to be a thing that they pick up, but I think they're going to be a really good team. And I'm sure that they have picked it up. Sark is over there, and now he's in his second year. So it's going to be good. It's going to be a good year in Austin, I think. So Matthew McConaughey.
I just think it's managing the hype they're going to have. It's
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. You can't let
not looking
yourself
past
get
anybody, things like that.
right. Yeah. You can't let yourself get in that lull session when you have to play that team you're supposed to beat that's middle of the table in week 7, something like that. I think early on, I think the hype will help them because they'll have that confidence and they'll be hyped to get out there. But it's those lull games in the middle of the season that they've got to stay through.
Yeah,
But I think that's true for a lot of number 1 and number 2s throughout
yeah,
the nation.
and I think as far as winning the conference goes, look, a loss in Tuscaloosa may not be the worst thing for them as far as buckling down and how Oregon got embarrassed by Georgia, like we were talking about last year, buckled down and really got after it. So
Yeah.
doesn't affect their chances of winning the conference. I do think it could be a little foreshadowed in media, obviously them coming to SEC if they get embarrassed, something like that. But yeah, I don't think losing to Alabama on the road would be the worst thing for this Texas team as far as the recipe goes for winning the conference. So horns up for me. I'm back. They're back. But unless there's any other little small talk we got, I know Z Dog's running on an empty tank. We got SEC and ACC little conference breakdown. I did link those two, as in the 2 versus 3, because be honest, guys. We're gonna hit ACC first. We're gonna get a little elbow deep in that SEC. Let's be honest here.
Definitely.
Yep.
Z, let's hit some bruisers next week for 292. Sugar Sean and all Joe.
About it.
All right, that's all
Dude,
I
I'm pretty
got.
sure Izzy's fighting on the day you're getting married.
He might be on the
I
Sydney
think he
card,
is. Yeah,
but
he is.
since it's in Sydney, I think it'll be like early in the day.
Gotcha.
So
You want me to bring TV to reception?
I don't care if you're on your phone. I promise. I promise. If Izzy is fighting at night and I'm at my reception, I will watch that fight. No doubt. No doubt.
Hell yeah.
I'm kidding. You only get married once. Fuck.
That's
I get
right.
it. I get it.
All right, guys. That's all I got. If y'all
That's
are
all
Yes,
I
ready.
sir.
got. I'm gonna keep track of everybody's conference winners. Put out a little graphic so you right in the year.
Yeah.
All right, dudes. As always, we enjoyed it. Like, share, send it to your friends, send it to your mom, send it to your friend's mom. As always.
As always. Tune in.
See y'all, boys.
Y'all.
Peace.